So the last rule that ties to exponents is dealing with negative, okay? And this is one of those that it's abstract to us because when we think of a negative, we typically think something's decreasing. But a negative in exponent land simply means that we're dividing. So it's a repeat of multiplication, but it's a repeat of multiplication of a fraction to actually make division. I know, kind of silly, right? So let's take a look real quick. You don't have to write this down, but I want you just to kind of observe. All right, so we have 5 squared, and which means 5 times 5, which we would say was 25. And then we have 5 to the first. So when I only have one 5, well, that's 5. Okay. So what just happened is we have a decrease of an exponent. We have -1 of our exponent. And when that -1 happened, we had a divided by 5. Okay. So what happens next is if I continue this trend, so I'm going to subtract one of my exponents, and I'm going to divide by 5. Well, 1 less than 5 is going to be 5 to the 0th power, right? 2, 1, 0. And 5 divided by 5 equals 1. So remember that other video where we had written about anything to the 0th power is 1? Well, this is why. Because we're dividing by that same number. And when we divide by that same number, it creates 1. Now, we're going to continue this path one more time. And we're going to subtract another 1 from the exponent, and we're going to divide by 5. Okay? Well, when I subtract another one, I get 5 to the negative first. Well, and then when I have 1, and I divide it by 5, I just got 1/5. And if I continue this pattern one more time, I'm going to subtract 1, and I'm going to divide by 5 again. Well, -1 makes 5 to the negative second. And dividing by another 5, well, remember when we divide fractions, we flip and multiply. So this would be 1/5 times 1 over 5, which equals 1 over 25. So look at what just happened. Let me change my color so you can I'm going to circle. Take a look what 5 to the second was 25, but 5 to the negative second was 1 over 25. 5 to the first was 5. 5 to the negative first is 1 over 5. So when we talk about negative exponents, we're going to be talking about taking that base and that exponent and shifting it to the denominator. Because that's in fact what happened. It went from the numerator to the denominator just by going from positive to negative. Okay? So that's what we're going to be focusing in on. So here is technically our rule. All right. Negative exponents, you put the base and the exponent into the other part of the fraction. All right. You repeat division. I like to use the analogy of riding on an elevator, right? So I have 5 and I have to the negative second. We already know this answer, but here's kind of the analogy that I use. I say that you are the number 5. You're standing in the elevator, and the exponent, that 2, is your luggage. But the negative, he's telling you that you're at the elevator and you need to push the elevator button. Okay, and when I push that elevator button and I get into my elevator, I'm riding it down because I have this negative, and I'm riding it down. I am traveling to a floor below, and my luggage is coming with me. And that negative sign, that button, he stayed put, and he was replaced with the number 1. The same is true if I am below the surface. So let's say I am 5 to the negative second. Again, I push the elevator button. I ride the elevator back up. This hotel only has 2 floors. Myself and my luggage come along, but my button stays put. The same is true as if I'm in a positive in the denominator, I come out of it, I become negative. We have to be able to go both directions. All right, so let's give this a try. All right. We have x to the negative third. Okay, so again, just like all of these videos, feel free to pause me, try it yourself, and then see if you are correct. All right, so we have x to the negative third. Okay, This negative tells me that I'm moving to the other floor. He's currently at the numerator. So that negative becomes a fraction bar, and myself and my luggage come along. Let's try this again. Okay. We have 6 to the negative third. So it's not saying 6 times 6 times 6. It's saying 1/6 and 1/6 and 1/6 because this is division. So it would end up 1 over 6/3. All right, let's try another one. A to the negative fifth. 1 over a to the fifth. So now let's make it a little harder. Is negative in the denominator. So we have 1 over 3 to the negative third. We're never allowed to leave something negative. We have to move it. So what would this become? My base and exponent follow along. Right? 5 to the negative second over 3 to the negative second. Now here I like to try to use my quotient rules, but I don't have the same base, so I'm not allowed to. So in this case, the 3 squared is riding the elevator up, and the 5 squared is riding the elevator down. So my 3 squared would be in the numerator, and my 5 squared would end up in the denominator. Sometimes, we're just going to add an example here. They might have, let's say this was 5 to the fourth over 2 to the third, negative third. Sometimes not everything has to move. In this case, 5 to the fourth, he stays put. He's positive already. But my 2 to the negative third, he's going to move to the numerator. So sometimes that might happen. Sometimes things might leave and other things might not replace it, and that's okay. But the key is I can't leave my answer as a negative. So in order to move a negative exponent, the base and exponent move, and the negative turns into a fraction bar.